Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. It's been about a week and a half since I last published a review, which was for the second of the All Souls trilogy. So I'm here to talk about the third and final instalment, which I finished yesterday. So I've been doing that week and a half, working obviously, and I managed to chop the top of my thumb off. Yes. Brand new nice set, and I didn't notice where my thumb was, and yeah. So that was an interesting on Friday that I just completely chopped the top of my thumb off. But anyway, I've been working and such, and I've got a day off on this could be Friday, which I'm really happy about. I've only got, it's weird to think, only like 3.5 weeks, I think, left of work before I'm done for Christmas. That's crazy. That is mental. And that just makes me think, oh my gosh, I've still got like 4 books to read this year. Hopefully, if I can get through all of them, which I've announced. And it's only going to be like 4 or 5 weeks until I can buy books again, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, I've already figured out what I'm doing for 2021. So I will be announcing that closer to the time, of course. But anyway, let's talk about the book I'm here to talk about, which is The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. Now, as I said at the beginning of this is the third book in the All Souls trilogy, which begins with A Discovery of Witches. The second book was Shadow of Night, and the third book is The Book of Life. So this continues on with the same story of Matthew and Diana. She is a witch, he is a vampire, and her opening a book at the Bodleian Library and the impact of her opening that book, and various creatures who want to get hold of that book for very, very different reasons, and Diana and Matthew trying to discover why it is that Diana had access to that book, why she could open it, why she could read it, why she could make it appear in the first place. Now, the first book in the trilogy is set in modern day Oxford. The second book is set in 1590, and then the third book jumps back to modern day Oxford, and continues on with the story. So, I have to say, I read, because the first few days of that week and a half since I've last published a video, I really couldn't read. I was like, oh God, please don't tell me I'm going to have a reading slump now, right when I'm at this pinnacle point of this story. Please don't let that happen. So I gave myself a few days off, and so I've really been reading throughout this week, and yesterday I read the last like 250, around 250 pages, and my God, I went on an emotional roller coaster yesterday. I was an absolute mess, because the thing is that this is not just good, this is like genius level amazing. I'm like, I am totally, utterly floored by this piece. So much that, right, I have read, obviously, the first 2 books. I have watched the TV series which covers the first book twice. So there is something that happens in the first book and the first series, obviously, where I was just like, okay, right, that's just an event that's happened. Never ever in the whole time I've been reading this book and watching the series have I ever thought that what came to pass was possible. And then Deborah just went boom, just dropped it, mic drop, walked away. Like, oh my God, I was so shocked by what was revealed in this final book. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so obvious. It is directly, she has hidden so much in complete plain sight. And I was just like I read so much all the time. Surely I should have thought about this. I should have contemplated that it was even the slightest bit possible, but I never did. And for her to then present that as being the truth, I was floored. I was so taken aback by this. And what is so crucial here is the way in which Deborah has written this story, written the world, written the characters. She's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, I've said in the first two books how wonderful it is that Deborah is somebody from the academic world who is explaining stuff, what happens in academia throughout, but she doesn't shove things down your throat as being this is historical, and really goes on and on about historical events and such when you don't need to. I appreciate that so much, and especially in this third book, because there is so much going on, and it all because obviously the first book is modern day Oxford, the second book is in 1590. There is a lot of links going all the way back to the 1590 period in the second book, of all the way forward to the modern Oxford. So there's a lot of jumping about, and all the characters are travelling all around the world, kind of like what they have done in the first two books, but the movement feels more urgent in this book, as you can imagine, because it's the end of a trilogy. But at the same time, she hasn't affected the pace by being too focused on historical stuff, and she has continued that with this third one. But what is so brilliant is her subtlety about it, and that she could just drop a sentence in chapter 5 or something of the very first book, which becomes monumental at the end of the third book. And she never, because of the way that she's written it, it's a line where you can read it one way, but that doesn't mean it's the way that it's intended. It's just the way that you have interpreted it. A piece of text on a bit of paper can mean, or just like when you get a text message or something, it doesn't have verbal tones behind the words. You put the verbal tones to it. And so she's kind of going, well, here's a historical document. I'm gonna, here's what you're being presented with, and this is how the characters are interpreting it. But this is how you should be interpreting it, and then and that just pulled the rug from me, and I was blown away. Her subtlety, her timing, her characterization, her, as I said, references to historical things. She doesn't bog you down. Her way of hiding so much in plain sight, it floors me. And I'm like, how the hell have I not read these books sooner? But as I said, I had the first book on my bookshelf for 2 years, and it was just a case of that. I think when I bought it, I'd heard buzz about it and such, and I was like, I think my sister loosely knew it at the time. She hadn't read it then, but she was just starting to read it, and it just happened to be in a bookshop in Stratford-upon-Avon when I was there on holiday, so I picked it up and I bought it as part of the book deal. But I think the reason why I didn't read it then was because I wasn't ready for it. And it just so happened that this year that it was one of the picks, the random picks that I, off the shelf. I asked my sister to choose 5 random numbers, and it was one of them. And it was the right time for me to pick it up. And I am so happy that I've read these books. I need to look into the audiobooks next, because I'm very particular about this, especially if there is something that I begin reading and I love. I need to read the whole load of it, or a whole series of books, if it's a series of books, first before I listen to the audiobook, because I want to create the world and the tones of people's voices in my head first. I don't want that in a way dictated to me by whoever has read the audiobook. It's my world in my head. I want to figure it out myself and see it myself. And so I think now that I've finished the trilogy, I'm going to look into possibly getting the audiobooks. But it felt also with this book, there was a heightened sense of danger. And I'm not just talking about, because it's the end of a trilogy and it's like we're sprinting to the finishing line and we've got to answer X, Y, Z. No, there's more to it than that. There is some horrific human torture that happens in this. There are children. This is only a tiny spoiler. Well, it's not even a spoiler what I'm going to say, but just so that you're aware. There is a scene where Diana walks into a room and there is a pile of dead children in the corner, which range from about 2 to about 10 or something. Around that. She doesn't specifically say how old they are, but we know from a previous scene that there is a child of around 2 amongst them. So to have that as a mental image, all the torture that gets experienced, there was a real human emotional impact to this. And I loved the concepts relating to what defines us, what makes us, what is in our DNA, what can the past teach us to help us go forward in the future. And I think especially with stuff that is going on in recent years, especially the Black Lives Matter movement and the way in which various organizations responded to that, resonated with stuff in this book for me. I absolutely love that the National Trust, especially in relating to the Black Lives Matter movement, started to integrate programs and such, various of their, the homes and such that are available for the public to view, showing and teaching the links to slavery and such for those properties, rather than hiding it away and just go, no, we're never going to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge the past in order to go further into the future. That's something I especially feel. And so to have that kind of presented in this book relating to demons and vampires and witches and such, it really packed a powerful punch. And I was bawling my eyes out yesterday. I was just so taken aback by this. It gave me chills. I, honest to God, feel like Deborah Harkness is a genius for what she has written. And I just love that there's not well, I don't know if this is the correct word, but I'm just going to say boastfulness about, egotistical about her and her works and her. I just kind of feel like whenever I have heard the name Deborah Harkness referred to, it's always been of a very warm and loving and, a quiet, very down to earth woman that gets presented to me. And I can feel that in her writing as well, that she's clearly written this as a passion project, and you can read it on every page, and every character is so wonderfully constructed. And I'm floored. I love her writing. I am so excited going forward to read other works of hers. One thing I will say, there is a book that has come out since the trilogy ended, which I think is called Endless Night, and that is a kind of, in a way, a spin-off book relating to the character of Marcus. Now, I do like Marcus. I'm not that fussed about reading it. The book I need, and Deborah, I am praying that you will write this or publish it very, very soon, because I know from talking with friends and from looking online that you have notebooks relating to this. I need a spin-off of Gallo Glass. I love Gallo Glass. I think he's wonderful. So much so that I declared yesterday, the first time ever in my life, I've said I think Gallo Glass is my book husband. I've never said it before. I have a book husband now, and his name is Gallo Glass, and I absolutely love him with all of my heart. So in case you don't know, a book husband is basically this, if you could be married to any fictional character, who would it be? And obviously you can have book wives, and there's, you know, book friends, book sisters, all that kind of stuff. But I've never, ever said that anyone was my book husband. Ever. And now my heart is just full for him. I am so frigging excited for the second series of Discovery of Witches, which will be on Sky in January, because that's where we get introduced to Gallo Glass. And now, knowing what I know because of what was revealed in this third book, oh my god, I'm gonna have so many feels for everything that he gets involved with in that second series and going into the third. I'm just like, oh wow. Gallo Glass is just, he's very, very special to me. It's going to be a roller coaster. It really is. But to have this trilogy, I've never felt, I think, so satisfied by the end of a trilogy. I have never felt such human emotion connected to specific characters from a trilogy. And I'm being specific when I say trilogy, because obviously, like Harry Potter, when it was like 7 books, and there's like, but I know Cassandra Clare's book, I do love the various characters in the world, but it feels like this group of people, demons, witches, vampires, whatever you want to call, this collection of souls live in my soul. And it's kind of like I feel very much for them, like I did with the characters from his Dark Materials, but this feels deeper. This I don't know if it's because of the maturity level of the various characters and such, but this feels so important to me right now. Yeah, I love them all. And the way that she finished this book was so satisfying. And I love the fact that the whole message to do with not everything is what it seems, and it's okay to be you, and we're all equals. It was just a wonderful way to finish this trilogy. And I know that the characters are at peace and such, and if she does write further books in the future, that would be amazing. But I am perfectly satisfied if she doesn't. I totally love, you know, the possibility of spin-off books relating to individual characters. But for this trilogy and the way that it is, if that's it, I am perfectly okay with that. But yeah, we'll just have to see what Deborah thinks. But Deborah just comes to me, as I said, as this absolutely wonderful woman, and she has written such an extraordinary world. The way she constructs, the way that she writes her characters, the way that she pulls the rug out from under you, the way that she shows how wonderful and magical the world is, the way that she really shows you that anything is possible, and the way that she has written the purity of love in its various forms was extraordinary. And the penultimate chapter, there's something that happens in the penultimate chapter, I'm not going to say what it is, but it was a moment that I never realised I needed until it happened. And when it happened, that was it. I was gone. I was bawling my eyes out. And it's so pure, and it's so true, and it is so full of love. And I want to thank Deborah for writing that, because I think that was one of the most beautiful things I have ever read. I truly do. And I don't say that lightly, because, you know, I read a lot. But yeah, these characters are going to be staying with me for a long time, especially Galaglas. And yeah, I kind of feel like, because I finished it yesterday, last night, should I say, I don't think I can do any reading today, because I'm going on to a mammoth book, and I'm like, Jesus, I need a break. After going through all of that, I'm going to read these books again and again and again. Like I said, I'm going to look into getting the audiobooks as well. And I'm so super excited for the second series, A Discovery of Witches. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to do a reading, because again, the pages that I marked turned out to be mammoth plot devices later on, so I'm not going to do that. But also, you know, it's a trilogy. I don't want to create any kind of spoilers. Oh, I've got to go. Bye. So, would I read this again? Hell yes, I'm going to be reading this and the other books in trilogy over and over and over again. Would I recommend this? Yes, I would, but be aware, as I said, there's some really hard stuff going on in this, and there is a lot, you know, various craziness happening, but it's all worth it in the end. And if you got through the jarring kind of effect of the second book, you're going to be okay for the third book, I promise you. But there are some really dark elements in there. Would I read any more of Deborah's works? Of course I would, but I need my book husband spin-off. I need Galaglas's book first before I read any other spin-offs. And yeah, I'm so excited, because I feel like Deborah is like a gem I didn't know was there, and I love how down to earth she is, and everything is just about love and warmth and family and heart and soul, and to have those as key messages through this trilogy, and to know that you're not alone, that we're all equal, we are who we are, and that is okay, is wonderful. So thank you, Deborah. Whew. And now I'm going to try and get through the rest of this without crying. In my previous books, I linked the trailers for the first two series, Discovery of Witches, which I will link down below. Second series comes out in January, which is based on the second book, and they are filming the third book at the moment, or at least they were. But I think obviously because of lockdown, they got shut down. So I don't know what the status is with the third series at the moment. But yeah, so they are my thoughts on The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me comments in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. It's entirely up to you. I'll let you decide. Sorry if I was rather gushy, but you know, it's the way I am. I feel everything deeply. And if I feel like I'm so happy, then I have to express full happiness. And anyway, the next book I'm going to be reading, I've already announced, which is Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, the second of the Dark Artifices trilogy. And my sister has told me that I'm going to be like, I've come out of one absolute blown away series of books, and I'm going to head first into the second part of another series of books, a trilogy of books, which is just going to hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. So I'm scared. Scared for that. But yeah, I'm going to stop now, because I'm just gushing and I'm just trying to figure out what to say next, and just lots of women and all. Anyway, right, I'm going to go now, guys. So yeah, I'll be back with my thoughts on Lord of Shadows as soon as I'm done. And I hope I didn't gush too much in this, and if I did, let me know. And I will try to avoid doing so in the future. All right, guys, bye.